William Parry-Jones now works for himself.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about your Wolfram company.
Wolfram Advisory.
Okay, Wolfram Advisory.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, new startup, April of this year. I'm out there talking to people about the tungsten market. This is a closed shop. It's an opaque market. It's a very, very small market and therefore not necessarily commercially interesting to the bigger players and the bigger entities in this world. So yeah, I'm out there sort of expanding people's knowledge base, helping them with market entry, market segmentation, and it's going well. I mean, they say most of business is luck, and I've been lucky in the sense that the market's been booming since I started this.
Yeah, so. That's right. You picked the right time to do it for sure. How's it feel to be working for yourself?
So far, so good, right? As I said, I've been lucky. I'm sure there'll be some downtimes where things get a bit more tough, but at the moment, things are going well, Cliff. Yeah. And how about yourself? How's your business?
Man, things are going pretty good. Like you're saying, the market's crazy. Prices are up. I think, the biggest challenge right now that we're dealing with is supply.
Yeah.
So if you're using the word critical raw materials, not even talking about getting into the rare earths, it just feels really squeezed right now, and it's tough to tell whether that's real or not real. I hit you up on one of your LinkedIn posts, and I was like, dude, those theories that you're working with are definitely there, whether is it a mining issue in China? What were those? You remember what those three were that you posted a couple weeks ago?
I do, but perhaps for the audience, let's talk about the market a little bit. So it's 150,000 tons, give or take, WO3 globally, right? Which is tiny. Copper's millions of tons, aluminium, multi-millions of tons, et cetera, right?
Yeah, and so when we say WO3, we're saying 150,000 tons of tungsten, basically.
Give or take, right? And 83% there or thereabouts of this comes from China, right? And the data from China isn't necessarily reliable. And you've got to be creative about how you actually learn about what's happening in that market. So many people in the West, or I should say outside of China, have been complacent about China's rise and growth in this industry and have ignored it or have taken at face value the data they've been given. So yeah, that's part of what I'm doing is sort of building things from the ground up in terms of China data sets, really trying to figure out what they're up to and seeing how that impacts the rest of the world. And to take your comment in terms of those 3 points, we've seen a vast reduction in the exports of tungsten from China. There was an export control implemented in February of this year. Exports have dropped by 30% since then. China's been importing a hell of a lot more tungsten, 30% to 40% more than it did in the prior year to date. Right? And I don't see a logical argument as to where that is really being consumed within the domestic Chinese market. The macroeconomics don't support an increase in demand to that same extent, right? So the ideas I was positing, one, we've seen a reduction in primary production, in mined production in China, significant reduction that we've never seen historically, right? Number two, China is exporting more value-added products that aren't showing up on the type of import stats that we're looking at.
That's a very good point,
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of the third now. My mind's gone blank.
Well, I mean, being at a conference, we're covering a lot of information. But those two are very big. I mean, I think it's very notable for me. I mean, those numbers that you threw out of how much China, I don't really necessarily want to say control because I don't mean it, not trying to say it from a totally negative perspective, but it just is what it is, that they do have that impact or the ability to impose if they wanted it to be negative. But for years, I mean, as far as I can remember back, we've always talked about this elusive mining number of their deposits, of what they had. And you and I were having a conversation recently where we were like, okay, are some of those mines maybe coming to end of life? And then what does that do to primary material, which is material out of the ground? What's it do to scrap? That was my biggest, that was the one point you made that I'm like, dude, that I really feel like that's a key factor. So how many, if you were going to say end of life mines in China, do you feel like that's a real thing, or we know that's for sure, or we're still kind of like, maybe not?
So if you take a look at the tungsten industry, tungsten was really first commercialized in the late 1800s. China's been mining tungsten since the early 1900s. It was around 1902, 1903. Okay. And some of the mines that are in production today date back to around that era. Okay,
wow.
So we're talking about huge deposits with multi-decade mine life.
Yeah.
I don't think, but I certainly don't have access to enough data to talk about whether mines are at end of life or how many mines are at end of life. But I think we can be confident in saying there's a trend towards a reduction in output from the existing mining base in China.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing that we've seen over the last decade in China is a focus from the government, absolutely correctly, by the way, to improve working standards, to improve health and safety, to improve environmental credentials. And that has had a knock-on effect of shifting the cost base further up, right? So cost of production has increased.
Yeah.
As cost of production increases, lower ore grades become less economic to mine, right? So some of those mines that previously were continuing to churn out, maybe they had been operating for 50 years or so, they're unprofitable today. Yeah. Worth noting here as well, when we talk about a cost curve for tungsten, in the first quartile, something like 20% of the tungsten in that first quartile comes from byproduct production in China. So it doesn't cost anything, right? They're mining molybdenum, they're mining bismuth.
Gotcha.
And the tungsten's coming out as a result of that. So they have some protection there in the sense of cost of production, but those higher cost assets now with the lower grades, you're not going to choose to run them.
How, just to stick with that topic for a second, how often is tungsten a byproduct of some other mine? So maybe they're mining copper, maybe they're mining gold, maybe it's bismuth. Is tungsten typically like number 2, number 3, number 4 in a mine, or are there tungsten mines that's like, hey, that tungsten is primary number 1 coming out of the ground? Most
tungsten production today is primary, so it's purely tungsten. I can think of a few. Certainly Nui Phao in Vietnam. There's an asset in Myanmar, a large asset in Myanmar that's not currently in production, that's also polymetallic. And then I think there are a lot of polymetallic assets that are undeveloped in Central Asia, so Kazakhstan, for example. These are big projects with perhaps some copper, bismuth, another metal as the main focus, and tungsten coming out as as a byproduct.
So we've known each other for years. You've always dressed well, had this sexy British accent, and I've always been like William Parry-Jones, but I recently found out you're actually a scientist as well, right?
I'm an engineer scientist.
Engineer, okay. All right, so give me a little I mean, because we've always talked like high-level sales stuff. We've never really like done a deep dive into that. So where'd you get your degree? What's the background in? Just give me a little bit of that.
Absolutely. So I studied in an engineering university in London called Imperial College. I studied undergrad in materials science and engineering, and then I did a master's in aerospace materials. Pretty much immediately decided that engineering and industry wasn't for me, right? The life of something that you might design, you're almost dead before you see it actually in use, and I need more instantaneous response and quicker results, right? So I was lucky enough through some work experience that I'd done to pivot into commodities trading. I worked for 10 years in physical metals trading in the City of London. Predominantly focused on tungsten, so I was doing intermediate APT oxide, some upstream materials at the time, right? And about 6.5 years ago, I relocated to Vietnam to go and work for what was at the time the largest non-Chinese producer of tungsten, a company called Masan Resources with the Nui Phao mine. Just moved back to the UK, as we've talked about, to establish my own business 6 months ago. So yeah, that's my career to date.
That's impressive. Impressive background, man. Very impressive.
How about yourself? I don't know anything about your educational background.
Well, my education does not get very far from high school, just an associate's degree from University of Kentucky. I am still at the ripe age of actually be 46 in a couple weeks.
Well, you look very good.
Yeah, whatever. Thank you. Still trying to finish that bachelor's degree, but my education was mainly hard knocks. You know, my father, the founder of our company, probably one of the best educations I received in life was from him on, hey, this is how you make a dollar, this is how you spend it, this is how you keep it, and this is how you grow a business.
I remember you telling me you were in the workshop as a kid knocking off the teeth of the mining bits, right?
Yeah.
So University of Hard Knocks. And
you got it. Yeah. So I think you might be able to say I have my master's in that for sure.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody knows tungsten scrap better than you.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's definitely in my blood. So let's talk some family stuff. I think you had you got a new celebration. You were recently married. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
And we got babies and everything else going on, right?
Yeah. You'd say I was a bit of a late mover, so I'm 37. Had to think about that.
No, it doesn't get better from here.
It doesn't get better. I've got a baby daughter who is 20 months, and she's just fantastic. So she's stringing words together. She's running around, burning energy, and eating everything we put in front of her. So she's gone from something you could hold in the palm of your hand 6 months ago to a young adult already. So time is truly flying.
What's her name?
Florence.
Florence.
Yeah.
Call her Flo.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then recently married as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a very nice party a couple of months ago. Lucky with the weather back in the UK. So.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. My best advice I can give you is enjoy every minute of it.
Thank you.
Because I've got one that's 20, getting ready to graduate college, and then I've got another one that's 15 that thinks she owns the world, because she basically does, at least in our household, but it goes by like smoke through a keyhole. But I appreciate our relationship. I appreciate your commitment to the industry. We've had a lot of people leave this industry, like a lot of talented people, not because they haven't betrayed us or anything, but it's right now, whether it's Tesla, you take the battery industry as a whole, the demand for people who understand metals is super important in that, and we're getting a lot of people pulled away. So thanks for your commitment, Stan. Appreciate your relationship that we've had the whole time, and I wish you the best with Flo and your wife and the new business, and maybe we can make some money here in the coming years.
I certainly hope so. I mean, and that's one thing I've got to commend you on with your operation. You really back your young team members, and you're growing a formidable team there. And as you note, it's not an industry that's really full of young people or people coming through. I think it's an industry you've really got to stick with for 10 years to understand. And that's a challenge for these young people who have incremental job offers, 25, 50% pay rise to go and work for Apple or whoever else. So, I really appreciate what you're doing with Tungco and the support you give to your team, and obviously our personal relationship as well.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Cliff.
Wish you the best, and let's go make some money.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Cliff's Notes. Cliff's Notes. Cliff's Notes. Cliff's Notes.